pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, Adam. We just said the pledge. Sorry, we're a little bit.
No, you're good. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Why
Yeah.
don't you introduce them to everybody?
Okay. This is Adam Stone from Stone Municipal Group. I'm gonna let them go around the table and introduce themselves, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Okay.
I'm Ethan.
John Estridge.
Richard Whitaker.
Rebecca Beasley. And we are down a council member that resigned last week, so this is it.
Well, very, very good. Well, I appreciate being able to participate with this year's budget, and happy to talk to you all this evening.
We appreciate your help. I printed out the documents that you sent for them so they can follow along.
Great. Are you good if I just jump right in?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. And let's see here. I don't know what kind of, if I share my screen, will you be able to see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me permission to share?
Yes. Oh, shoot. How do I get back there?
So as she's looking to provide the screen share capabilities, the this year, right, budgeting is got kind of turned upside down on its head. The new state law, we're going to cover at least the high points of that, just so that you can answer any resident questions or constituent questions that arise. I want to make sure you understand some of the new credits and those types of things that are impacting the property tax component of your budget, as well as just
Good luck with explaining it to me.
yeah. Nope. I think we'll be able to cover a lot of ground tonight. I think it is nuanced, but there are a couple things that I think will make sense. And we have had an opportunity now to review all of the funds. We have some comments and just kind of feedback here or there. But the most important thing that I always like to start with the first time we get to interact with a new community is, I don't like to really assume that anyone's ever really fully kind of briefed you on like how the levy works and how it really, I think a lot of people are just sort of thrust into this stuff and just have to learn it over the years. So I'm going to kind of build it up brick by brick here. I started my career in local government as a finance director. So for me, all of this was kind of learning at the end of the fire hose. And so I really take education to heart here to make sure that, as we get the opportunity to work with you all, we're educating as we go. Okay. Let's see. I still doesn't look like I can share my screen yet.
Oh, I hovered over it to make you host.
Okay. Let me see. Let me just refresh 1 second.
Okay. Did I not hit the right thing? I was hovering over you.
Yeah, it still says, let's see. It's not that
terrible technology. So I'm contagious.
I don't see the ability to share. Maybe we can just talk through it. I'll just tell you like kind of what handout to reference. Okay.
Okay.
So let's start at the high level. Let's start with the kind of defining some terms here. Is everyone familiar with the term levy, or would it be helpful if I sort of baselined what that term even kind of means?
Yes.
Okay.
Just start from the bottom. Yeah.
Okay. So, so Indiana has had a long history of property tax legislation, property tax control legislation. But before it really came into way, years and years ago, decades ago, communities such as the town would go through this normal budget process, determine what they need for their municipal services, and then they would pass a budget. And then as part of that budget, they would also pass a amount of taxes that they need to quote unquote levy onto property taxpayers the next year. And that amount of levy would then be compared to the assessed values the subsequent year, and a tax rate would be calculated to go out on tax bills the following spring. So in the 1990s, you would pass a budget. You would say, hey, we need $1 million in property tax to fund our government next year. And you would hand that off to the state, to the county. The assessor and the auditor's office at the county would compare that to the assessed valuations next year, and they would calculate a town tax rate, property tax rate, and apply that on assessed values. Okay. And that process worked for a very, very long time, and until enough residents started to complain about tax bills being too high. The state legislators got involved, and ultimately what came out of that was property tax levy controls and tax caps. So the first round of sort of budget controls were this idea of a tax cap. And tax caps came out around 2006, 2007, I believe. And they're still the same. They're 1% for residential homestead properties, 2% for non-homestead properties like rental and farm fields, and then 3% for everything else, commercial, retail, etc. So, for example, if the total amount of taxes billed on a property was higher than any of those caps, the taxpayer got relief through state law referred to as a circuit breaker credit or property tax cap. So in other words, if a individual home if a $200,000 home had a 1% tax cap, then 200,000 times 1%, their legal maximum amount of taxes that they are obligated to pay all local units of government, including the town, is $2,000 per year. If the town, the school, the county, if all those tax bills added together equaled $2,500 on an annual basis, then that taxpayer would receive a $500 credit on their tax bill. They would never have to pay that. They would only pay the legal maximum of $2,000. The $500 would be referred to as circuit breaker, which we'll talk about later here in a bit. And that $500 credit is absorbed across all the units on that tax bill as a pro rata percentage of their tax rate. Okay. So that was 2006, 2007, and that impacted a lot of communities. In the state of Indiana, the average tax rate that is billed is about $2.13 per $100 of assessed value. That basically systematically means that most homes, for the most part, not all, but most, are essentially at the caps already. Some rental properties are already at the cap today. So for the most part, a lot of the properties below the caps are like commercial, industrial type facilities. That's not a complete rule, but that's more than not the case. So this concept of a levy is really an artifact of past practice, right? It's the past practice pre-caps. So when the caps came in, this whole kind of concept of levy and growth and all those things really it's kind of noise, because at the end of the day, there's tax caps. So just because you pass a levy part of your budget process doesn't mean that that's how much you collect. And in some cases, that can be extremely different. There are communities that have 50% circuit breaker credits, meaning for every $1 of levy they adopt as a council, they only receive 50 cents of that in actual net collectible property tax revenue to fund their departments. So I start with that because that term is going to show up kind of throughout this process. You're going to see it on forms. You're going to see it as part of the budget process. I'm going to talk about it tonight as far as things that have changed. So the key terms there, to just make sure we all have kind of a level footing on, is when I use the term levy, I'm referring to the aggregate amount of property tax revenue that the town is trying to bill on all taxable properties next year. When I've referred to circuit breaker credits or tax cap losses, that's the amount that systematically gets reduced from that adopted levy as a result of the amount that is excess of a individual's property. So each property has its own cap. The county goes through and calculates all those caps, and then the aggregated amount of caps that are exceeded are added together and defined as a circuit breaker amount at the unit level, town level. And then the last thing would be, as we talk about the new property tax reform that was passed this year, you'll hear me reference both kind of the changes to assessed values for homestead properties, non-homestead properties, as well as a new homestead tax credit that I'll share an example with here as well. So that was kind of a 101, 201, and 301. But in any event, that I think that's important context. Before I proceed, any questions on the levy concept? Because it's nuanced, it's not common sense, but it is important to at least have a grasp of the terminology.
I think we're good.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So then let's move from sort of theory to town specific, right? So in 2026, that's the budget we're looking at, the total maximum levy that the state of Indiana is allowing you to adopt as a council is $1,022,893. Okay, that is the legal maximum that you can, as a council, enact. You could certainly enact any amount between $0 and that amount as a fiscal body. The state controls how much that can grow each year by what's referred to as the maximum levy growth quotient. It is a nuanced formula. For 2026, the maximum amount that it can grow is by 4%. Okay. In addition to that $1,022,000, there are certain actions the town has taken in the past to levy additional property tax funds for additional special purposes. The first of which is to fund your cumulative capital development fund. That is a fund above and beyond the normal maximum levy, and it is established by resolution and ordinance of this council. It is a discretionary fund above the normal maximum. In addition, any debt service is also above the normal maximum and it requires an action of council. So those are two sort of voluntary, discretionary tax rates and tax levies beyond the maximum. Now that we have kind of a concept of the circuit breaker, though, you know that while that total amount is maybe about $1.2 million worth of total property tax that you can bill next year, just because you bill it does not mean that the individual property has to pay that amount of bill, because they're at the individual property level, they have property tax cap protection. So on an individual property's basis, if their specific tax bill exceeds their cap, then they are offered systematically on the bill a credit. And as a result of that credit, you experience what's called a circuit breaker credit on the town. For 2026, the total amount of circuit breaker tax cap loss impacts on that original 1.2 million that you would bill is just shy of $228,000, or about 18%. So in other words, for every $5, it's $1 per every $5. So for every $5 that you anticipated getting for your government, you're really getting $4. Okay, in just kind of a general terms. What's new for 2026 came out of the law. There's a lot of credits and deductions, which I'll show you. You have a handout that goes into this in much more detail. But there's there were two primary changes to residential homestead properties, homestead being owner-occupied residential housing. For those properties, the law changed the current deduction schedule by essentially removing the existing homestead credit and replacing it with an expanded supplemental credit. The net of that is by 2031, a homestead owner-occupied house, the total amount of deductions on that property double. Okay, meaning that the net taxable value is cut in half. Okay, so in other words, a property today that you're taxing, let's say, 2/3 of the gross assessed value, by 2031, the law is not appealed or amended. You will only be taxing 1/3 of that value. So in other words, that same $200,000 house, today you're taxing $167,000 because they get basically a 1/3 homestead deduction today. By 2031, that same home site of $200,000 is now only going to be paying taxes on $67,000, so half as much today. In addition to that, any homestead owner occupied, so any homeowners in the room, you get immediately starting next year, you get a new credit in addition to the tax cap credit that is the lesser of 10% of the tax bill or $300, whichever is less. So if your tax bill is $2,000, you get a year, you'll get a $200 instant statement credit from the state of Indiana to reduce your property taxes. If your tax bill is $4,000, you will get $300 off. That is the maximum. Okay, that starts next year. When we look at the property tax caps and we start to put together a sort of a long-term plan for the town from a financial health perspective, the first thing we have to deal with is this new homestead credit. When I looked at your property tax levy growth, and we think about trying to fund departments long-term, next year the state says, hey, you can grow your levy by 4%. That sounds good. And in actual math, that means that you could increase your total levy by about $57,000. However, your circuit breaker increased 73% year over year, 73%. So that on a net basis, when we look at net revenue, 2025 to 2026, net property tax that you could actually collect, even with the 4% growth, is actually down $39,053. So you're getting less next year. You say, how can we be growing and getting less? Well, we have that new homestead credit in 2026 that we've never had before. It is $41,400 next year. There's a brand new credit. It's an immediate dollar for dollar reduction in the property tax revenues you get today. So the majority, if not all, of your circuit breaker increase next year for 2026 is really just the recognition and the implementation of that new homestead credit of $41,400. Let me pause there. I covered a lot of ground there. Is any questions on that so far?
Is this going to be offset by the increase in assessed value?
Yes, your assessed values were up little over about 10% year over year. So to some extent, that should be offset. But every estimate I'm giving you is including that 10% assessed value growth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pardon me.
Yep. So the next thing I want to cover then is circuit breaker is allocated to different funds. And there are certain funds that are protected, not exempt, but protected from circuit breaker. So let's start with the protected funds. There's one fund type that's protected from circuit breaker, and that's your debt service funds. In other words, the state prioritizes trying to fully fund and shelter debt service funds from the impacts of tax cap losses or circuit breaker credits. So in other words, all the taxes come in, the county as people pay them, and they try to first make sure they fund all the debt payments, and then they kind of share everything else out, and those go to like the general funds, et cetera. So they have to eat a kind of a larger share, if you will, of the circuit breaker as a result of protecting the debt levies, the debt funds. So in your case for the town for 2026, right now, of that circuit breaker estimate and the new homestead credit, the total amount that is estimated for the town is basically $228,000. 86% of that is going to be felt by the general fund, because the majority of your property tax goes to the general fund, followed by your motor vehicle highway or MVH fund, and then your CCD or cumulative capital development funds, respectively. So, you mentioned your assessed value, and it was up very, very nicely. It was about a 10.9% increase year over year. That has been a long-term trend now that we've seen with the town as we're kind of building out our plans. You're up to just shy of $129 million net assessed valuation. So again, when we think about properties, they're all assessed. There's a market value. There's like a real world market value. And then more often than not, the gross assessed value is less than that. Okay. And then the gross assessed value for certain properties receives deductions, right? So homestead deductions, what used to be mortgage deduction, veteran, blind, disabled, those kind of things are all types of deductions from gross assessed value. And individual properties pay property taxes on net assessed valuation. So your net assessed valuation, net all the new credits and deductions coming out of the Senate bill this year is still up 10.9% or 129 million. We did try to calculate to see if you qualified for what's called a 3-year growth appeal. You just fell short, but you are an extremely fast growing community. So it puts a lot of pressure on services and a lot of pressure on projects. So we did try to see if you qualified for that, and you just missed the threshold of growth to qualify for a levy appeal.
Of course.
So where does that leave us today? Well, I know Gina has been working with, on the Form 1s and getting the budget estimates in. I will defer to her on kind of the requests and the changes, those kind of things. We have been really focusing on kind of the fiscal strategy, making sure we understand the levy structure, making sure we understand the fund structure, and just kind of how the cash flows look. I have a few comments at the fund level based on the current budget that I can share now and in preparation of your public hearing coming up here in a bit. And also wanted to kind of talk through just a few kind of best practices and trends that we're seeing communities react to and respond to the new law as well. Before I move forward on either of those two, any other questions that have emerged so far for me?
No.
Okay, so let's go through just kind of a quick high level of some of our observations looking at the funds. Gina, this would be like the Form 1s that I'm talking about, the handout, if you want to point them to that. This is the current estimate of the budget based on the requests that have been entered, and then we have updated all the revenues based on the levies and everything I just told you. So I would encourage you just to kind of first and foremost familiarize yourself with the layout of the form. It is intentionally trying to be a forecast and a cash flow for really 18 months. So for each page represents a fund of the town. And just to define that, think about each fund as its own checkbook. Okay, these are kind of different ledgers, if you will, of the town. At the end of the day, the town is more like a conglomeration. It does everything from streets to utilities, right? So each function of the town kind of has its own profit and loss statement, or own cash flow, its own accounting record, and those are the funds. Okay, so they want to make sure you segregate the general fund from the sewer utility fund, right? So each page represents a appropriated fund of the town, and it starts off with sort of the name of the fund, et cetera. And then the first
Yeah.
4 rows or so are actually a forecast of the remaining amount of this year. So it's, for budgeting, right? At the end of the day, it's a best guesstimate. It's a forecast. So we start with June 30 actuals. We make estimates of how much expenses and revenue we're going to make the final 6 months of 2025. And we're really projecting then an ending 2025 cash position for every fund. And then we get to 2026. So about a third of the way through each page, you'll see where it switches to budget year 2026. And then it shows kind of the revenue estimates and the expenses and the projected ending December 31st, 2026 fund balance. If the fund receives any sort of property tax, you'll see a property tax rate at the very bottom row of each fund. I shall note that for the purposes of budgeting, it is a common practice to budget with a overly conservative tax rate. So the tax rates that you see in the budget are intentionally higher than we expect them to be. The actual tax rate that we think that if you adopt the budget as is, based on the levy amounts, would be about down 5% over 2025. We would anticipate your tax rate to be in the order of about 94 cents per $100 of net assessed value for 2026 if you adopted it as is tonight. And that compares to about $1 per 100 today. So because of the growth that you're having in the assessed value, your tax rate is coming down. So the tax rates you see on those cash flows is intentionally higher than we think it'll be. That is really to protect the councils, to protect the town, to make sure that, kind of think about it as like a not to exceed. It's a not to exceed amount. Okay. So we've looked through all the funds. There's a couple different things we would point out. One is we would want to make sure that the rainy day fund, for example, kind of page 2, we want to make sure that $50,000 in expense is really sort of unallocated, truly like emergency type expenses. My guess is that is the case. It's just we're new to the town, so we're kind of learning as we go here. I would just want to make sure that is not a recurring expense that you anticipate having.
That is correct. We just have in the past just put it in there in case we need it.
Very good.
And that and usually Riverboat too is the same. It's smaller, only 15,000, but that's the same situation. It's not allocated towards anything.
Okay, that's great. And then the next page, the general fund, is the one that obviously we really want to make sure we have lasered in here. It's the majority of the budget. So we're estimating right now a deficit on the general fund. So we would encourage you to kind of prioritize and look through that. 2 notes though, just to make sure I'm super fair and clear here. Your ending fund balance is very good. It's extremely healthy. You have excess reserves really kind of across the town, but general fund specifically. To put that in perspective, if you look at row 18, line 18, that's a projection of the end of next year. And that number divided by the total budget, so 1,667,000 divided by 2,485,000, anything over 50% is extremely healthy. That translates to an operating reserve in the order, you could basically fund your general fund with no property taxes for 6 months. You essentially have like a 6-month emergency fund built in to the general fund. So the minimum that I would suggest is 16%. Okay. So anything between 16% and 50% reserves almost across the board is healthy. In this case, your fund balance is excellent and would allow you to temporarily pass budgets out of balance because you have excess cash. Okay.
It's like dipping it into your savings account, right?
That is right. Yep. So we would just say be eyes wide open on that, right? And the difference there, I would also say I would be more okay with that if it's like a one-time expense. So if you're like buying equipment or you're doing something that's you're actually intentionally trying to spend down the balance, that would be okay. What we wouldn't want to do is get into what's called a structural deficit, where we're every year spending a $250,000 more than we have in revenues, and that money's all going to salaries and benefits. That would be a structural deficit, which means that it's in a matter of a few years, you would burn down those reserves. Okay. The next several pages actually look pretty good. I'm just trying to be fair from everybody's time. I'm jumping to page 5, which is the local income tax fund. It's fund number 0254. Does everyone see that one?
Mhm.
So what I would encourage, this goes for, you have a couple different funds. You have a local income tax, you have a public safety income tax, and you have an EDIT, or economic development income tax. Each and every single one of those goes to zero in 2028. So as part of your budget review process, I would encourage you to get a deep understanding of what departments are benefiting from those 3 funds today, and start now talking about your interest in local income tax need post 2027. The property tax reform, the property tax component got a lot of the focus, but it also completely dissolved local income taxes in Indiana. So in other words, if no action's taken within the town or within the county to enact a new local income tax, by 2028, January 2028, those 3 funds, 100% of local income tax will go to zero. So when we talked about property tax and all those things, and that impact was, you had a net loss of $40,000. When we talk about local income tax, your total exposure is $1,139,779. So I would be doing you a disservice tonight if I didn't make it very clear that that is the largest potential potential loss you have, is if you don't have a strategy for local income tax going forward, you need to make budget adjustments. You need to start thinking about plans to have $1,139,000 less in those 3 funds: local income tax, EDIT, and public safety local income tax. That is the biggest impact you have coming out of the bill. Now, the bill allows you to have home rule. So if you're over, does anyone know your current, I didn't look it up. What's your approximate current population is like 1,800?
23.
2,600. It's a
2,600?
little
Okay.
over 2,600. Yeah.
Okay. So you will at your level, then you will have to partner with the county, and you can adopt a municipal local income tax in the fall of 2027. We can work with you. We can talk you through that on another kind of conversation. But the key point tonight would be, as you get budget requests for 2026, and in those 3 funds, just in the back of your mind, know that those 3 funds are going to zero unless you adopt a new local income tax to start in 2028. Okay. So
Is
if you,
Is there a limit on what you can adopt for the new local income tax?
yes, sir, there is 1.2% at the municipal level.
And what's that mean?
I can't calculate. I'd have to calculate to see what I'll take that as an action item and get that to Gina, and we can get it out to you all. I'll calculate what your parity rate would be. So like if you were to adopt the max, I'll let you know what that would translate in dollars. So you can compare that to what you're getting today to see if you need to take the max or if you could take sub max, et cetera. It's kind of across the board. We're seeing it in some cases. Communities are better off, actually. If they adopt the max, they get more money than they're getting today. There are, unfortunately, communities where they would have to, the amount that they would have to adopt to kind of break even on the amount of local income tax they're getting today is unfortunately higher than the max. So they will have to take a haircut. But I'll get with Gina. We'll calculate that for you by your public hearing.
And is that pretty much our only option, is just to petition the county?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Yeah, that's really it. And now there are 2 legislative sessions between now and that date. So, there's a lot of people studying this. There's a lot of people looking at this. I think the bill kind of went too far too fast. So, but my job isn't to, project. My job is to tell you exactly what the facts are right now and build a plan, to deal with that. Okay.
Plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Yes, sir. Yep. So, and then the only other funds that kind of stood out to me, a couple of the utilities, I would just kind of look at the revenues versus expenses there. We are seeing pilots. We're calculating and building those in for communities right now. Pilots is an acronym that stands for payment in lieu of tax. This is a charge that would apply to your utilities. It essentially taxes, it creates a proxy tax rate on the value of the invested plant assets, utility assets. The idea there is that if you did not municipally own the utility, if it was a private utility, you would be receiving property tax revenue to your general fund as a result of that investment. So it is an option within state law. Council has the right to adopt that, set an amount, and charge that as an expense to the utilities, and it becomes a revenue receipt, a new revenue to your general fund. We can calculate that. We can help you through all that, whatever you need. But that is something we are seeing in other communities as far as a response to that kind of revenue loss that you've seen, is to make sure that the utilities are, participating. In addition, we would just continuously say, look at cost share opportunities. That means staffing. So if you have street personnel that are working in the right of way or working in utilities, looking at that. If you have general fund staff, like accounting staff or something like that, that are working for the utilities, making sure they're being, reimbursed for their time that they're working on the utilities. The utilities should be kind of a private business and covering their cost. Looking at big expenses, health insurance, property renewals, rebidding those, being competitive there, making sure that you've got, really an eye on those top 10 expenses. And then because of your growth, any sort of new building inspection, local permit fees, making sure that those are not only break even, but possibly more than break even, better than break even. We see a lot of communities, they're going through this huge percent, growth period, but their building permit price hasn't changed since 1999. And when we look at it, they're charging someone $2,000 for plan review. They're doing outside review, and it's costing them more than it is they get in the permit. So those are all just kind of things we're seeing folks do, is that basically trying to figure out other ways to do charges for service and, fees to try to make up some of that was lost revenue and that you were getting in sort of non-exchange services, sort of just like what you were just getting in through property tax. You're now going to have to either reduce your budget or make whole those revenues in other ways. I know Jeannie and I have talked about this, but I would encourage you. Interest rates are still very high, meaning maximize the cash you have on hand. You have a lot of fund balance. I would make sure that you take advantage of I'm not a big fan of CDs anymore. I'm a big proponent of the Trust Indiana program. I would make sure that you have as much invested as you can. I think as of the other day, you could still earn in like a very liquid next day wire type operation, like 4.3%. So that means for every $1 million, that's $43,000 of revenue that could come into the town. So just increasing your investment portfolio by $1 million would offset the homestead credit loss next year. And you have excess reserves. So we covered a ton. I would encourage you, there's a white paper that we included. I think Gina printed it out, our budget best practices. You see that document? It's on our kind of letterhead.
No, that's not it, is it? This here, the
Yeah,
Stone Municipal Group.
Yeah, that's
this
right.
one.
Okay, so first page is me just being kind of trying to be funny. Accounting humor is never really that funny, but I try. And then this is, for any of you that have a hard time sleeping at night, this is my best interpretation. The property tax reform bill is 345 pages long. We have read it multiple times. This 10-page document is sort of my abbreviation of the bill. So it is still sort of long-winded, but it's taking 345 pages and condensing it to essentially 9. It covers in much more detail the new homestead credits and some of the technical changes if you're interested, or if you have a resident that has read about it. It's like, what does the governor do? This hopefully would be a resource that you can kind of look at, screenshot, send it to them, whatever. It talks very specifically about the credits and how you can calculate the math. And then about halfway through it, on page 6 or so, there it starts with 2026 budgeting best practices. And we, as a team, went through and just kind of laid out all kinds of ideas to try to make it to where if you implemented like just 1 or 2 of these, you would be better off for it. So, things like, prioritizing capital assets that create money for the town, municipal wheel tax, making sure you're reestablishing your CCD, the utility pilots is in there and covered on page 7. We talk about the municipal lit in there as well. There's a ton in here. So every one of these is probably not a good fit for you. I don't intend you to go through and be every single one of these be a perfect fit for the town. My hope is that 1 or 2 at least prompt a question like, hey, when was the last time we looked at our employee health benefit cost share? When was the last time we rebid our property insurance and casualty insurance? When should we look at a pilot? What would that do, right? And so that's all it is. We have about 20 or 25 or so ideas just to try to, and you don't even need them all in 2026. You have the reserves and such, but as you go forward in time, hopefully that'll give you sort of, as a council, an abundant list of opportunities where if you need to kind of balance the budget, you've got some opportunities that aren't just cutting services. These are all options to keep the same level of service or even improve your level of service, but still fund your government. Okay. I know we've covered a lot. I'll continue to work with Gina on my side over the next couple of weeks to make sure we get the gateway and the Form 1s and everything ready to go. I will take an action item to get her the local income tax rate information for you in real dollars so you can understand what to be thinking about there. The funds that I would really kind of emphasize during the budget process would be the general fund and then those lit funds. You certainly could approve the lit funds. I would just want to, as council, make sure you understand what departments are benefiting from that, because they're sort of those dollars are at risk long term. So in the most extreme example, we wouldn't want to see a bunch of position requests, let's just say as an example, funded by those positions if your goal is to not enact the local income tax in 2028, because you'd just be putting yourself in a track to have some really hard conversations in the future. So Gina has my contact information. My personal cell phone is in the white paper as well. It's the 812 number. You can call me if you have any follow-up questions. I'm here for you. I want to be a resource. And then certainly as we continue to work together, as just we get a better understanding of the town and the operation, we'll be able to provide more and more specific, advice and recommendations as well. But I hope tonight was helpful.
On the pilot, we own the utilities. So are we able to do a pilot?
Yeah.
If we own the utilities?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Because
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying yes. I was just piling on.
Okay. Are you able to help me with our fund balances and maybe seeing what we could invest?
Absolutely.
as far as that get started early rather than later?
Yeah, let me make a note of that one as well.
Or after we get through this Form 1 stuff, we can do that, but.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Did you think the revenue that you put, the levy you put in MBH, do you think are we okay with that? It wasn't that terrible.
Let's see here.
I think our proposed expenses was 191 and then our proposed revenues was like 185.
Yeah, but your fund balance is big on motor MVH, right? You have a pretty
Yeah.
big fund. Yeah, I'm not worried about MVH. Really, one of the things.
General.
Yeah, general is the big one we want to balance up. The kind of the rule of thumb I would leave you, just so that as you have more funds over time, the funds that we really want to prioritize from a budget balance perspective are funds that pay people. So if payroll is associated with a fund, we want to balance that fund. We want to be sustainable. Now, I don't want you to get so black and white there that we build a bunch of cash. One of the reasons I think the state legislators kind of took action is that they saw communities build a bunch of cash and they weren't spending it. So, so in some cases, like a motor vehicle highway fund, we don't need 200% of our budget in cash. We want to get that in blacktop. We want to get it in sidewalks. We have potholes to fix. We want to get that money out the door. So the kind of the way we look at it is we prioritize trying to balance funds that pay people first and foremost, so we can make sure we can pay those people for their career. And then second to that would be, okay, on these sort of capital funds that are really special purpose funds to put money into roads and streets and parks, we could be a little more aggressive there, because the intention of those funds is to deploy that money. Okay.
Question about, the MBH and the MBH restricted distributions.
Mm-hmm.
If we get a wheel tax for next year, we can only use the wheel tax revenue for roads, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And then 50% of your distribution has to go to is restricted.
Restricted, right. So can we, I mean, I don't know if that, but I guess the Payzer rating depends if we can do 40% of the MVH restricted rather than, I'm just thinking we're gonna have wheel tax revenue, which could, cover that, but
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's based off of the Payzer rating, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you buy equipment from the wheel tax revenue?
Let me double check that. I believe so, but I want to be 100%. I'll research that for you and get that to Gina.
Okay. Anything else? This says generally directly funding road and bridge upkeep, so I just did like a high level.
Equipment might be upkeep, so you could argue that. They don't have to know that.
Any other questions?
So that can't be used like to buy a truck for Rocky to fix.
He's gonna look into it for sure. I don't think so.
And snow, Nico?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
he'll let us know.
Yeah, I'll double check it. It has changed a couple times the last few years, so I just want to go get the latest and greatest kind of language, and we'll make sure you have it, just so you know kind of how to prepare.
Okay. Is there any concern if we petition the county for the lit rate that they don't have to give us that? I mean, what's the deal there?
Yeah, no, they absolutely. I mean, it is worthy that we should have an entire probably special session, or I don't know how you all could do if you do like admin sessions or anything like that. We should have kind of a offline strategy conversation on local income tax, just because there
Okay.
it is going to be, because of any population under 3,500 doesn't actually have home rule. So if you were 3,600 population, you as your own council could adopt your own rate up to 1.2%. Sub 3,500, you have to kind of go through the county, which, as you all probably know more than I, the relationships and the sort of then the politics come into play and all that fun stuff. So we will I would just say let's take that as an action item. The that decision, in order to have no gap in revenue in 2028, it has to be adopted, filed, and enacted by October 2027. So there's really no revenue loss between 26 and 27, but as part of your fall 2027 budget process for 2028, you have to sort of declare if you're going to have that local income tax rate for payrolls starting January 1st, 2028. Otherwise, you won't have any of that. Those three funds will have no other revenue.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Anything else I can help you all with this evening?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure. Like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. We are, as part of the 2026 budget process, we're putting together our own sort of plan as far as the SB1 really goes out to 2031. So on our side, we're sort of building out estimates all the way through 2031, just to kind of get a feel for where all these things are shaking out. Obviously, the local income tax decision in 2028 is a big needle mover, which is why I wanted to kind of raise that today. And we'll be around to help. And on my side, let's make sure I'm not missing anything in no particular order. Over the next couple weeks, we'll make sure we get the Form 3 and Gateway all kind of tied out for your public hearing and final decision. We will investigate whether or not the wheel tax can be used for equipment purchases. We will calculate and get you the parity rate information on local income tax before now in your next public hearing. And once we get on the other side of some of these budget timelines, we'll work with Gina to estimate if there's any excess reserves that can be invested while interest rates are still high from an earnings perspective.
Okay.
Did I miss
Thank you.
anything? Oh, and the pilot. We need to eventually probably talk pilot. So, okay. Awesome. My pleasure. You all have my contact information. We look forward to working with you all. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Adam.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I don't know, do you guys have the budget request that, it's, oh, no, I didn't put it in. Well, I sent out ahead of time, each department, we kind of tried to prioritize some things. The ones that I prioritized, I did put into our Form 1s. When I say Form 1, this is the proposed, when I put it into Gateway, it's the proposal, right? I don't think I gave you that. I sent it by email, but basically it goes by fund, and I can get you guys copies of these. But it goes by fund, and it's just what you think you want to spend. But I put in the proposal so you could see where our expenditures were in match with when you put the levies and the revenues together on this. These sheets here by each fund. The two, like he said, general and probably our lit funds are the ones we're gonna have to probably hit and see what we wanna do. I know he did say general is healthy, so
Yeah, but
we
we
just
don't
can't
want to.
sustain it.
I agree with him on the salary. If we keep dipping into it year by year for the salary, but I want to give raises too, so I don't.
So the only thing I can say and suggest is that we do have some one-time expenditures that we did put in for the golf course this year, which I think I put in 90,000 for the golf cart paths. I kind of split the difference between.
I was about to ask you, can we consider the golf path as town roadway? Get funds that way, because I mean, didn't we, when we kicked the idea around with the age limit on the carts, wasn't that something that was brought up that is sort of like our roadway, since the town owns it.
We're not in the town limits, so I don't know what that would be like. I would
I
have
mean,
to
is
ask.
is there any kind of funds that we're eligible for to help pay for that?
I don't really.
God
I
knows
do
they need some
general.
love.
Well, yeah. Some of those things I feel like are one-time expenditures, like the pump house irrigation project, those are one-time things.
We've had a lot of one-time things.
I know, just, so when I look at that, I think, well, that's probably what, like, what did we put on for? I gotta find it.
And I can promise you, I will go door to door and find out which company's gonna do the paving the cheapest. Just because I asked Brackney's doesn't mean that I won't have to ask Brackney's, because there's lichens, there's, what's the man that passed away over there?
So that's almost 150,000 right there for those two
There's
things
clubs.
that we think are one-time projects.
Yeah, that the redo
When I look at,
Everybody's got a paver.
and when I look
the.
at it,
Rock-
it's-
What about this?
Rocky-
Rocky was talking about the line.
And not
we're about
paving.
200,000 away.
I
So,
just
feel
don't
like
know how that's. I
He
just
said
don't
it's
know.
like concrete once
Um,
it's done, it is.
I just don't know how long will stay.
Well,
Mine
the-
doesn't stay in my driveway.
We've got to take a good look at that, because
Correct.
it could save us a bunch of money.
Yeah,
But Lime doesn't stay in my driveway, and my driveway's 7 miles apart from here, so.
Well,
So I don't know how he's putting it. Is
he
he
said
putting
it's
something?
been done in other places, so they must have a procedure to do
Correct.
it.
yeah, he said
He
he's
did say he
seen it.
was gonna take pictures the next time he goes.
But I feel like,
Good.
Going somewhere.
but I feel like he was in Tennessee in a different atmosphere.
I think he was down south when he seen that.
For some reason, I was thinking he was in South Carolina. I wasn't thinking Tennessee, but maybe it was Tennessee. But
I
whatever.
don't
So,
Or it was south somewhere.
So when I look at the revenue, after he did the revenue estimates, we're looking at $2,272,000, and I think we preemptively put in general like 2,485,000, so. What do you think, like 200,000 away, and 150 of that is a one-time thing, like, that's pretty good. Another 25,000 of that is for that tractor.
but
I
and
don't
like
know.
Dad said, he said, Dad said one day when he gets off the school bus, he'll go over there and he'll look to see what tractor we're using.
Okay,
And then he'll help me keep his eye out, or he'll help me keep an eye out at Dad and Mark go to tractor sales all the time.
so I kind of feel like those major golf course items are one-time issues that we won't have for next year.
That's what I was telling them today, our tractors don't go through a lot of heavy wear and tear, they pull a finishing over.
Yeah. It's not uneven ground.
It's not, and it's not crazy, it's not crazy pulling, it's
Yeah.
not pulling a disc through 8 inches of dirt and running
Yeah, hillside,
something up, yeah, it's, keeping hydraulic hoses from dry rotting and preventative and things like that, but getting a 2025 or 2026 mower is expensive.
Some of the tractors, no doubt.
I mean, and depending how the year shakes out, we could encumber funds from general if we need to, from this
Explain
budget
that.
year. So if we have revenue left at the end of the year, if we have a purchase order or an invoice or an estimate, we can use that to encumber 2025 revenue from the general fund to spend in 2026, and it just carries over. Because we've already appropriated it, it's just hasn't been spent.
Did
That
we do
makes
that
sense.
last year?
We did on some things last year, because we did have that, so I mean, that's an option too.
Sort of put the money in aside for that.
But you just never know with the end of the year. But that's a possibility.
I thought, I mean, I put in, so what we prioritized for the golf course was the cart paths and then the pump house and irrigation building.
A must and a must.
And then, I think the tractor
Correct.
was a priority. And the utility sprayer was number 2. The UTV, I didn't even put that in there because I feel like it's either a and or an or.
And for what they use it for when trees and branches fall, they put those on it and haul it.
Okay.
I think we need,
So again, we could probably look at used equipment for.
Correct. we don't need we don't need a brand new 2025 to haul branches from one side of hole 14 to the ditch we throw them in behind hole 3. Cause we no longer take stuff down over the hill in a dump truck. I feel like, I don't know, I kind of feel like if we're literally throwing them over a ravine on the backside of hole 3. Like, instead of bringing them down here to the,
Be mulched up.
yeah, to be mulched up. I don't know why we're doing that. I don't know why we're not bringing them down here to be mulched up.
Something to talk to Ralph about.
Correct.
So do you think that we should remove the tractor at this point if we're gonna look into like a used option?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and remove that. Is there anything else with the golf course you guys think?
We do have the pump house and the
Yes, so
irrigation pump.
I've got the irrigation pump house project, we guesstimated 58,000 for that, which Rocky said, I guess that house part could be less.
Oh, yeah, we're hoping.
Yeah, but then when I talked to, Tim, actually we have to hire the pipe fitter to fit the pump. The concrete part around it, and then hire an electrician to hook it up. And then the pump itself, so I think all that together, what we estimated was gonna be around 58,000.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully not city.
yeah. And then the cart path, I mean, we could put less if you want, or just, like you said, since it's a one-time thing, I mean, that's up to you guys, whatever.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put the amount that we've got, and if we come in lower,
We're coming lower, which I'm
Sure.
we have a dance or something.
So they thought between 80 to 100,000, so I put 90. And again, this is just advertising for public hearings, so it doesn't mean you have to adopt that amount. So if we get some estimates later that are less, we can actually adopt a lower amount. We just have to advertise high. So we'll advertise high, and then if she gets some estimates on the cart path that say, oh, it's only gonna be like 65,000, then we can actually, at the public hearing, then adopt the lower amount.
When does the public hearing?
It'll be the second meeting in September.
Okay,
What's the date? What's the date of that?
September the 15th.
Okay.
So that.
60.
I
No,
think it's the
yeah,
15th. So that hearing will be, people can talk about what we advertise, and they can ask questions. We won't actually adopt until the first meeting in October.
Be here.
Well, I think at that time, we'll,
Already
the
be
main,
done, okay.
the main business is done,
Okay.
yeah, it'll just be a formality, if we hadn't changed anything in between. So I don't think that should be a huge deal. Did you have any other questions for Joe? Do you have anything else on your budget that you need to?
Just some part pass and that pump house, my
Okay.
big main thing.
Now-
I mean, obviously I know the tractor and stuff
we
like
probably
that.
can't do it this year, but I want us to think about getting a simulator.
I want, yeah,
For the
I do
winter.
too.
That's what I told her.
That'd
She
be a good
needs to have
revenue.
her- That's what I said. She needs to have her, golf outings for it and make money for it, I think. Yeah.
If you can sometime, get some prices on them. and
Yeah.
We can figure out if we can do it at any time.
Be nice to have a couple of them.
Well, and again,
Have-
that would
have-
be,
have a
like I
win
say,
day
you
or
know,
something.
capitalize on your. Firstly, that would be a good
revenue that we
Mhm.
wouldn't have normally, probably.
Yeah.
You could have like winter leagues or whatever.
That 180.
I gotta finish, she said she'll read it, I said I gotta finish the paperwork and make sure we have all the dots in a row for what we're.
And how much you charging her?
I don't know yet, it's been, with the 4 outings last week. I mean, there ain't time to think, let alone,
Would that be extra money that we get?
Oh, Ruthie will be, they'll have it there.
We need to advertise that, don't you think?
I gotta have prices together first.
Okay.
Let me get through these, let me breathe on 72 hours a week without sleep and a wedding. But Gina, I will get numbers over to you guys with, the numbers they have are like $50 here and $20 extra for this and this for this. I'm like, look, can we just get numbers and just be
Yeah.
done and
I
not
think it'd
make,
be a lot easier than we could.
why not
Yeah,
make it
much down.
simple? Yeah, cause it's just, it's like, oh, here's this number, but then let's jump through a hoop and add this. And I'm like, that's so silly.
Okay.
I feel like it was Sean Burns numbers all over again. and My head wanted to explode for the.
This is on, the next one is the pool. Becky and I talked about the pool request outside of normal operating costs. We talked about deck chairs next year,
Mhm.
which I think she thought were maybe around 7,000.
Yeah.
We do have some, endowments that we received money from through the foundation, the Danny Fox Memorial. Their endowment contract says we can actually use for improvements at the pool. I see that as an improvement, so we could maybe use part of those funds towards the chairs. So maybe we could reduce the 7,000 in general to,
Okay.
I don't know, I say three
We need some
3,000.
chairs, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've got a couple companies that I have already contacted, and I think we can get 25 chairs for like 7,000. And that's the
Metal,
The deck.
the
Wait,
straps on it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
won't go.
them plastic ones, they don't
We're not
last.
going plastic.
I mean-
No, not at all.
Time the sun hits them for a little while, they're all distorted,
Yeah.
don't work.
And so-
Get one side of it work in the back and the other side's going to who
We
knows
need to
where.
Computer down there because it doesn't work.
So I just put that into the
Okay.
supplies,
Okay.
since she doesn't have an idea of what she wants.
She
it's
doesn't really
gonna
know.
Go into,
Yeah.
supplies.
Okay.
What about cash release?
Well, that cash register down there, they didn't.
She was
didn't
using
use
it?
No,
Oh, she did not.
no.
Well, I went down and put paper in it for her.
Yeah, no, they're not using it. They just, no, they didn't.
Well, they've got to start using it.
I know. So I told her, I said, this year you have to train people and we have to use it.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
what
like
we
I talked to
want.
you about. We've gotta have different systems to keep track of what they're selling 50% off and what they're not selling 50% off. We are gonna start keeping track of that in both places, because I feel like,
Was that all in the pool that you had those two things?
yes, the food that, we made a rule on that you can sell 50% the hot food to the workers, employees, and then the rest, they have to pay full price, and there's gotta be a better way to keep track of that. How are you putting it in on your computer?
Well, she has the golf nail system,
Okay,
so you have
they
it
have
in.
program. Yeah, you do, you have a system that you put it on for 50%, that's being sold.
Hot dogs. No, you just put it in this, like, it's a $4 hot dog, I put it in this $2 candy bar.
So you're,
Yeah, I didn't put a 50% employee button, because then I'd have to do that for,
okay,
I have to have like 7 different buttons.
Does that cash register, can they put in like a code,
Yeah.
number 6?
yeah, there's a
That
code,
gives them a.
code that for 50% off. We've got a code in on that computer for 50% off. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, my only hot food was hot dogs.
Yeah.
Nuts and cheeseburgers.
Okay. Well, I think it's pizzas and what do we serve on? Pizzas, pretzels and.
Nachos
And nachos, yeah. Yeah. And then the pops and then everything else is supposed to be 100%.
Yeah, everything else, and yeah, that's pretty much what the kids ate,
Yeah.
candy, chips and pop.
Mhm.
They didn't, that's all they ate.
That's all they want,
That's
yeah.
all they
That's
want.
100%.
That was normal, there was no button for that, that was.
Oh, no, Gunner likes your cheeseburgers. That was really good that day.
Okay, so yeah, that would be enough for the pool.
Yeah, so I just put that into general supplies as an operating expense, because we always have that line item anyway, so that should be fine. The next, oh, go ahead.
One question, when can I order these chairs?
Not till next year.
Until January?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, because if we don't order in January, February, they said there's a 6 to 8 week at least leeway to get them. That's the reason why we didn't order them this year. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and I would say even if you can get a if you get a purchase order or whatnot, but just so they know that we can't purchase them.
Okay.
Until.
What are we gonna do with the old one?
I don't know, we want to do the other ones, right? We'll keep them until they tear up.
Scrap man comes by every week.
I was gonna say though.
Well, they won't even take it as scrap, it's plastic.
The deck chairs, with
The blue ones?
no, those are just what we got through.
Right.
The long ones.
There's metal ones.
Yeah, that's got the straps and they're,
Yeah.
and we can still use some of those
Yes.
until they break down.
Yeah.
Right. But those.
But them plastic ones,
Yes, there are, it's the plastic ones that,
the plastic ones ain't worth it.
Yeah.
I think we bought those used from another
Yeah.
place when we first opened, because we didn't have anything. Yeah.
but we'll use those ones with the strap until we just can't use them
Okay.
anymore.
Good deal.
Can we restock those? Because the
Yeah.
metal parts
Yeah.
are good.
Yeah. I mean, if you got the patience to sit down and do it, you would.
Can you restock them?
I ain't got nothing, I ain't got nothing but time.
All right, let's check in to get those restrapped.
No, you get, I mean, it's sort of like an old lawn chair you used to, I don't know if some of you might not be old enough to remember them.
I'm good. I'll work on the clubhouse rental paperwork to get that to you.
Didn't you have, weed eaters?
Yeah, I put those in there
Okay.
too, but
Yeah,
it's like a
it's like-
$900.
It's like, yeah, I was gonna say they're like $325 a piece and I'm
Okay.
pretty sure
I
Sher's gonna give
I
us
don't feel like a weed or something where we have to.
I feel like
cut
it's
out.
fine to vacuum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a necessity. All right, sorry, you don't have to stay if you don't. Street department, Rocky had, 4 items on his list outside of his normal operating. One was a Ford F-550 dump truck for salt box and snowplow. And then another one was another F-350 2x4 to use for pickup, leaf pickup. However, he said the F-350 would be his first choice now. I think originally when we met in pre-budget meetings that, he talked about the 550.
Yeah, but he
But
wants
he,
350.
yes, he said, if you don't mind.
Well, God bless him.
I know, right?
And that was
So-
just for that.
So that was like 120, close to 120. So I put 15,000 of that out of local road and street and then the rest out of edit for the dump truck.
Okay,
Again, that he said it might be less, might be a little more, but I used those 2 funds to kind of split that. And then the other, so probably not the second choice. We'll just hold off on that other one.
what
for
about
now.
rubber malt?
So the rubber mulch I put in edit for all
Okay,
the playgrounds.
that's,
And I
we
did.
really need that.
Yes, so that's in there. And then I preemptively put in playground equipment, but I feel like, after talking to Patty Wilhelm, that she's gonna research some grants. So I don't know if you want me to hold off on that,
Yeah, hold on.
just take it off for
Yeah.
now, or should we just advertise and then wait?
Well, we can do that too.
Okay.
Do you feel like that we should pay for that?
No,
Oh, okay,
No.
yeah, because I don't think we should pay for that, yeah.
I mean, and you can, whatever they get, take off, you know.
you can say high, but you can't go higher. You can go lower.
Because I think, my personal opinion over there, I think they need to raise that money, because it really, the kids everywhere is not, you know, getting their abuse.
Stepchildren.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like I said, I don't know when the grant cycles are, so I don't know what grants she's gonna be going for, so we could really take that out for now if you guys
I
choose to
would.
do.
Whatever you.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's
I
up to
should
you.
take it out.
Take it out for
I
now.
think it should be taken out. Is that okay with you guys?
Fine,
Okay, yeah, take it out. That's one thing we don't need.
just so that
Not this year.
we're trying,
Yeah.
we're looking, because I want to get a playground over there for this kid.
And I think, and we can always do additionals if something comes up
Yeah.
later, we can.
Yeah.
Do an additional from somewhere, depending on how much money they raise, I guess, too. I think that was all Rocky had outside of his normal.
Also, Ethan's kids can use it.
Back,
Yeah.
Don't you have?
speak up, Ethan. Yeah, yeah.
They like the other one better.
I like the other one better. Another thing I put out at edit was, the municipal building updates.
the painting, I put in. The painting of the municipal building, there was two things, he also had to joint seal some of the.
There's some damage back there that have to be fixed.
So those two quotes together total,
About
$19,700, so I did put that in out of edit.
Did that include them windows behind Terry's getting filled in with block?
This is just a painter,
This is
I don't
just a
think he's a
painter.
block person.
Yeah. He's gonna repair some blocks and there's some damage over back here that needs to be repaired, but not,
before they pay.
yeah, before they paint.
Well, Terry had, I mean, this was nothing in a meeting or nothing. We talked about, I think there's two sets of windows in that back area where they got their gym equipment that probably need to be blocked in. Just for safety to keep somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can look at
we'll
that.
look at that, yeah,
And
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think it'd be terrible.
I don't think it would. I thought you said they had give you a price or something. When we talked about getting it.
Pain.
No,
Just
just,
painting.
yeah. And he had to repair some blocks back here.
Okay.
So I think the last thing that we had on the municipal building, we talked about the awnings and the logos.
Yes.
So the awnings would be outside
Mhm.
each entrance here and on the police side. And then the logo, would be on the wall here in the meeting room. And that total was $22,850.
Okay.
And I put that out of edit also since we were using edit last year for the updates and repairs here.
Okay.
I felt like since that water line replacement project has been pushed out, this freed up some of our edit money to utilize for that. for
One
these
on
things.
52.
Yeah, so Tim said that
But
he talked to the state today and he said they might be able to, what do I wanna say, pay for most of the
Help
project.
fund it.
Yeah,
And then we would be responsible for 10% within the scope of the project, but then 100% if it's outside of the scope of it, so. which- That's great.
Guess
Has to be a lot.
I guess you could hope for that.
I know, one can hope.
it saves both us and redevelopment a lot of money.
That was all we had on the municipal building, right?
Okay, what about the logos and all that stuff?
That was Main Street Brookville. Did anybody?
Yeah, I talked to Christie.
Okay,
Redevelopment Skimmers 30.
okay.
We have $8,000 in kind.
Fine.
So what she's talking about is 22,000 from us.
That's up to you all, whatever you wanna do.
What did we give last year?
We gave 24 last year.
Well, see, we're saving 2,000.
And then if we got rid of that playground equipment, I could replace that with their distribution. Do you just wanna,
I'm big on Main Street. I mean, they do a lot, we're trying to bring tourists in with the Friday night stuff. And I'd like to expand that to 2 a month.
The only thing that I had a problem with when she gave her speech, whatever it was, is that she didn't break down her cost. And she raised her hand and said, well, and I gotta have my raise. How much of a raise is she giving with y'all?
I don't know that.
That's what I'd like.
Nah, I know, like,
I guess you could.
Oxford.
Yeah.
and Lawrenceburg have music every week. Every Thursday, they have music. And it's only from, this date to this date is when it is, which would be nice if they had something up every week.
Lawrenceburg, we can't even talk about.
No, I was down there last week and there was 6,000 people there. And they did a split the pot and stuff. I think split the pot was like almost $3,800.
What do you think about Main Street?
Would like to see what she's spending money on.
I
I
would.
mean, it makes sense. Everyone else tells us what they're spending money on.
Breakdown.
Yeah.
So we could put it in there and then,
And then get the breakdown, yeah.
yeah,
And then you
and
can.
take it out.
That's, yeah.
Not to change the subject on Main Street, but since we're on it. When they're working on them buildings,
2,000.
I did notice.
2,000.
the other day, they was working on
They, it's 22 last year.
just Lottie Da or something like that next to, I Place.
Yeah.
And they had a lift out on Main Street and they had it with the tires that leave marks. Instead of the tire, they make a tire that don't leave marks, they're gray tires. And there's tire marks on the sidewalk where they was at. And if, in the future,
Oh, sure, yeah.
I don't know who would be in charge of.
That's a private.
I mean, I know, but who would delegate, you know, if you're gonna be doing this, you gotta abide by a rule. Is that something the town makes? Is that something that historic?
We'd
Is
have
that
to,
something?
we'd have to do an ordinance. on that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a little,
We could talk to Tib and Andy on that.
yeah. I mean, they make a tire, I mean, all they gotta do, if they're renting equipment, they can rent it with the certain tires, and then they ain't gotta worry about it. But down there's tire marks where they was doing that.
Where's this at?
I think it's Lolly Da. They had a lift, maybe putting a sign up the other day. And I know I could see where the tire marks was on the sidewalk from the lift. It may, you know, I don't know who to say anything to, or if we need to, or what, but
Well, let's just talk to Andy and Tim and see about writing an ordinance.
something, I mean,
Cause
Yeah,
they're
I-
hopefully gonna be fixing a bunch of.
exactly, that's why I was
Yeah.
worried about it. There's gonna be a bunch of places and maybe
Yep.
something needs to be said, if it's an unwritten or a written rule or what, but.
Or we can just find out who the company was that did the work and then,
I probably know, but.
okay.
You can send me an email. You can send me an email. So Main Street is 22,000, right?
Is that what you said, 22? Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Want me to reach out to her to get a breakdown of what
Yeah,
it's kind of stuff, okay.
so I think water and wastewater. Their big mistake, and you guys can agree from the pre-budget meetings, was the mini X.
What's the mini X?
Mini excavator.
Oh, maybe,
But didn't they say they can rent that when they
Yes.
need it?
They can, yeah. And then I know initially we were worried about seeing what the service lines were, that issue, which I feel like that fire has kind of calmed down a little bit. So I don't know if you guys just wanna hold off on that for now, and then we can always address that later, cause water and sewer isn't part of the
Yeah.
levy.
Yeah.
So we can address that another time.
Definitely gonna have one if they gotta start checking all these lines, ain't they? You're not gonna go in there with a shovel and dig
Right.
nothing up, it's gonna have to. Just by the way the
We
ground
haven't
is,
gotten any guidance on that,
So
on what
it's-
happens if we don't do something by a certain date. He talked to his congressman's assistant, I sent questions, congressman's assistant. No
No
answer,
answer.
no answers from the congressman's office. I don't know if that's how she cares about us or what.
we get it.
Well, the big thing on the wastewater side was that rehab of the East clarifier is 150,000. So. I don't know if you guys wanna. Use edit for part of that along with wastewater, because that's a big chunk. But we also have a CD.
You know that fund better than we do.
yeah, it's all on you, Gina.
Do you want them to rent that mini excavator?
I would rather them rent it than buy it, because we don't use it every day.
Okay, that's what I.
So we'll just
Well,
hold off on that. I don't think I put that in there.
They just need enough work to rent it. I mean, not just rent it for 4 hours or a day, have multiple projects. That they, you know, it's worth their while to go rent it.
And again, water sewer is still to do with the property, it's tax levy, so I mean, this can be addressed through the year if you
Mhm.
want.
Yeah.
They wanted a trailer too, didn't they?
I think that was included in that
The
price.
excavator
Yeah.
trailer to haul it.
The East clarifier, again, like I can work with Tim on that. I don't know if redevelopment would be interested in pushing someone.
Yeah, since we don't have the project now.
Okay, I mean,
Yes,
maybe
ma'am.
we can ask
Todd, if they can, is that in the tip area? Does it go down that far
Where
to the plant?
you can do things
Okay.
if it services the area.
The area, okay,
So
Alright.
sewage and water are kind of.
okay, so maybe we can ask Todd about that too in a second. Did you guys talk about your spending plan
Yeah,
in depth or?
yeah, yeah.
Kind of a high level
We
overview?
just went through it, what it was, nobody had any questions.
Alright.
So just, so we didn't have anything for the wastewater?
I just put in general like operating costs based off of last year's,
Okay.
like I said, I never used to put water, sewer and our utilities in with this because.
Yeah,
It
it's
just
a
was,
thing.
it's its own thing,
Okay.
but he recommended at least we should start, maybe trying to. Budget, yeah, for those things, cause we really haven't, I mean, we kind of do whatever needs to be done when it needs to be done,
Yeah,
cause everything
and
seems.
that's gonna continue.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
things
it's
break
unfortunate.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about, you had two salaries you wanted to talk about.
Yes, three, actually, the
Yeah.
three, yeah.
Well, the one I was keeping separate, cause it's police, I haven't been with police yet.
So, okay, well then the other, so we want a flash puller and a rocket. And have we decided what type of cost of living we're gonna do first? No,
So I preemptively put in a 3%, but that's up to you guys.
Yeah,
That's pretty standard though, ain't it? 3%?
We always did 3% when since I first got here. The last 2 years, they were generous and gave 4.
Right, I mean, it's like 3 is like
a
the
lot.
most common.
Most common, I mean, I mean, a lot of them that I've seen on listserv have not been above
the
County's
county's giving two this year.
Yeah,
2%.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried we'd have to go down to 2, so 3 makes me.
Well, like I said, with general floats a lot of police, street and, wages, my wage, I feel like. As long as, like he said, we can maintain.
Not going too far.
What do you want?
I'm fine. I think the last 3 years we didn't do elected officials. We just kept it.
I'd
You're
rather.
an employee,
we not
are
get
you?
an increase. That's up to you guys. I'd rather we not get an increase.
I'm okay with that, I don't care, yeah.
Are you okay with that?
So Rocky, I was thinking, so they're gonna get their 3%, but I would like for Rocky to have 5% on top
Okay.
of that.
All right, so
And flash puller also,
Rocky
if you guys are happy with that.
and, okay.
What does that dollars and cents?
Let me find my sheet here. Jeez, yes. What, do I want to say out loud? Probably not.
Write it down.
Write it down. We said. Yeah, that's per hour for Rocky.
That's what it will be, is it now?
That's just Rocky though, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, it's like a,
So that would equal 5% on that. And then another 3% would be on top of that.
Oh, I don't think so. That's just Rocky. I thought she just meant 5%.
what?
You said it was 5% for those two, everybody else 3, right?
5% and 3%.
Well, 8%?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
because they're gonna get their 3%.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think you guys might want to discuss that a little bit. That would be.
yeah, but that's not, but the thing, if you don't, they're taking on more responsibility.
Mhm.
And if we don't make it worth their while to take on that responsibility, we don't wanna lose those guys. Everybody across the board is gonna get their 3% cost of living raise. We gotta make it worth our while.
Okay, so this one would be,
Who is it? Who are you speaking to here?
same was.
How do you feel? Ian?
Let me do both of these and then you can pass it around.
So you're going to take the 3 and the 5 and add it together?
I did.
Okay.
At 8%.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Let's see. This one is. And this one is. You can pass it.
So, and this is Rocky?
It's at the top, the names are there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Rocky, okay. Now, what we will be making. And, right, okay. You're thinking now,
And that includes a 3%.
that includes the 3% and 5%, right?
8%.
8%, there you go, there you go.
And I had one from my utility clerk too.
How much is that?
I didn't, I was gonna ask, see what you guys were willing.
Is she taking on more responsibility?
She's pretty much the only one I got. Joanna doesn't wanna work part-time anymore, so I feel like she's the only one, I'm not really gonna.
What is she making an hour now?
How much do you want for,
Let me see,
she get paid out of some of the other
it's
funds?
utility.
Yeah.
That would be 5.
I think her 3% would be fine for her, because she's had some raises here the last few years.
How much are we talking?
Yeah,
If we
you
go
got,
five.
you got one going away and the other one's gonna be picking it back up the slack.
Yeah, but the thing of it is that if we give her that, then we've got to look at the other secretary and the other people, because why, my personal opinion is, why give it to someone who's not picking up any extra activity?
When you say other secretary,
Police department,
okay.
That would be 3%.
that's gonna be her 3%, and that'll be her cost of living raise, is what you're saying, or you're gonna give her 3 plus the cost of living raise?
You said do the 3, I
Yeah.
did the 3%.
But that's a raise, that's not a cost, did you include the cost of living raise with that too? So essentially, if you want to give us.
3%, I
That's
didn't
three.
do 6%, I just
Yeah.
did the 3%, we said just do the 3%, that's what the 3%
Well,
was.
how much do you want for her?
5%.
We'll do that.
Such as 2%.
So she'll get the 5% and the 3%.
No,
Oh, yes.
I'm
Oh,
just
on top of
saying,
the 3.
yeah,
Just altogether 5, so the 3% cost of living plus 2%.
right.
It's just,
Can we do that for Patty then too? Because Patty has no health either.
Well, that position is newer, my thing is that Patty hasn't been there that long and she's not making much less than what Amy was, I feel like.
Patty's making just barely over $16 an hour. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, no, it's okay. That's fine, whatever you guys wanna do. I will do whatever. If you just wanna do 3% all across the board, then that's what it'll be.
Well, I think they should be at 3% across the board
The
for
only-
everybody,
yeah.
and then we talk to what we wanna give them, just like, down at the sewer plant, I mean, everybody gets the 3% except for,
What?
The Rocky,
no,
What?
the new position
We don't have a new position.
in the police department.
Oh, that one is just, we'll talk about that in a minute, but that
Exactly,
is the
but 3%,
difference.
everybody else gets that,
Okay,
and then what do we wanna give on above? We said 5% for Rocky and
and 5%
Dwight.
for Dwight.
yes, okay,
Yes.
that's
And
good.
then the way Gina explained it, she wanted 2% on top of the 3 for,
Yeah,
Amy.
Amy.
Yeah,
And now we're to Patty.
yeah, because I just,
Patty's never had an extra helper. I've usually had 2 people in the office. And then the part-timer, she doesn't wanna work here any longer. I think she's still willing to come in and be up front so I don't have to.
She's like me, she has enjoyed.
Retirement, yeah.
But I mean, that is, I mean, we don't have to decide that right now again, because that's water sewer funds, that's not property tax.
Now, what would, the police department, is that separate?
Tax.
That's
Property tax
property
and public safety, yeah.
Well, I guess we can.
I just think that if we're gonna do
Taxes.
one, we should do the other. Because it's not right to give one and not the other.
Well, then that's everybody, because
Well, no, because they're taking on more responsibility. Rocky and Flash Pillar's taking on more responsibility. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah.
Sure,
Yes.
sure.
How about you?
Yeah.
So that's that's a different, totally different story.
okay.
But yeah, but I think if you give one secretary a raise, I think you gotta give the other secretary a raise because it's not right.
Then why don't we extrapolate that over to everybody?
What?
If
Oh.
you're gonna give the secretaries 5, do you
Well, that's
give
the reason why-
everybody
That's the
5?
reason why I'm against it. I'm against it completely. That's the reason I just think that the 3% cost of living should be good enough.
How do you feel, Gina?
I'm at university, you guys do, I've already.
Well, I
It's up
think
to you guys.
if the one that you have is wanting to leave, that's gonna put the workload back on the other one, so.
But is she
I'm not
gonna-
against giving her a little extra money.
But how, is she not coming back at all?
Who is she?
Joetta?
If she does, it'll just be when like Amy's on vacation or.
So that
Plan
puts more of
vacation.
the load back on to Amy.
I just
I
wanna.
mean, I don't know how much Joetta does.
The purpose of Joetta coming in was so I don't have to be out front
Right.
all the, and cover if somebody.
She, I
yeah.
mean, what all does she do, you know?
She was learning the billing and doing deposits, and she was learning basically to cover when Amy was not here.
Well, I don't have a problem giving Amy.
I don't have a problem
Alright.
giving Amy some too, then that way, if Joetta's not gonna be in there at the same time, Amy's gonna be in there. Because to me, that's a
Correct.
double,
Yeah.
Right.
that's, because that's a position we can do
So
without.
Joetta's last day with Amy was yesterday.
Okay,
From now on, and she said until I find somebody else, which I don't plan to. Cause I'll just have to be.
do you guys object to giving,
And you was talking about giving Amy 2%. Is that what you said?
5 total?
Five total,
Five
yeah.
total. Yeah, I gotta separate it in my.
Sure, yeah, no, that's fine.
If
She'll get the 2%
everybody's gonna
raise
get
and
3%, that's fine. We just gotta figure out what.
Can
It
we,
doesn't have to be decided today because, again, that can be salary ordinance time and she's water sewer, so it doesn't have to do with property.
Ethan wants to say something.
I just said. Paying $16 and they get 5% raise. They're like 1680, you get an 8% raise, it's not like it's, $10,000 and they're working on 100 hours of overtime a week.
and that's the reason, and I think that's only fair to give one if we're gonna give the other, because I mean, again, she's doing it all over there by herself.
It always has been a single position.
I know, but
Oh,
again.
I'm sorry.
it-
That's okay, don't worry about it right now. It's water under the bridge. So
When is the salary ordinance?
not till the end of the year.
Okay.
So we've got time. The next thing.
40 hours a week with no, that's $800 a year.
We don't have a salary ordinance for secretaries. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
Part of it,
every salary ordinance is for every person that gets paid from the town
Even us.
Right,
and their benefits.
but, okay.
So the next thing we got is the police department, so they want to create the position and the promotion for Sergeant Richardson for lieutenant, so I did include that in the, salary.
So he would give his 5% plus
No,
okay,
it's just what they're asking it to be. So just what they asked his salary to be is what his salary would be.
yeah, but that's more than the,
Yeah, because that's what they want to create that position for.
It's a new position, what is it?
Oh, sorry. This one.
When you promote him, you create a new position, so
So I
he
feel
don't
like,
fall under
I
the
feel like.
3%, he just follows the increase
do you
in
know what
pay.
the percentage of that is? I don't.
Is this current? Is that what that says?
Yeah.
So he will get what the lieutenant was making before, plus he will get the 3%
No,
cost of living.
no,
It's
just,
an amount, they changed it on. Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know they changed it.
yeah. That's-
Yeah. I feel like
Okay.
it's, I mean, that's a whole new position, it's not even.
Yeah.
So he
That's
won't
what it
get,
would be with the 3%, because that just is 8, so that's with the 8 plus 3%.
I don't know, I didn't do the math, I'm just saying, they don't want him just to have the flat increase, they want that to be his salary.
Exactly.
That's not what I took, that's not what Terry talked to me about today.
What now? I thought that would be, he wouldn't be included in the raise because his position is the raise.
Well, if the lieutenant, the former person and lieutenant was making that salary, then I think.
It's not in the salary ordinance anymore,
Oh.
we don't have it at all anymore, it's
okay.
out. So that's what I'm saying, that, I'm taking as that is what they want to
That
make.
he's making now times 8%.
Yeah.
And tell me what that amount would be.
What was that one in the paper?
What is the salary now times at 8%?
That's what would be with the 8%. It's not including the 3%.
But that's not been included in the 3%, so.
Just a straight up 8%, that would be the 3% raise plus 5. So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, but with it being a new position, it's just gonna be a straight 8%. He's not gonna be eligible for the
3% cost of living
3%.
raise.
It would just
I'm
be
okay
a,
with that.
Are you okay with that, Ethan? Cause I think they were figuring him getting his 3% raise on top of that.
no,
But if it's a cost of living raise, why would he not get it?
it's a new position.
I mean, he's technically getting a cost of living raise, you just get a 3%
Exactly.
raise instead of
getting
the
a 5.
I mean, I feel like they should have been.
Included.
I mean,
They should
quite-
have said it on top, but I didn't feel like that was.
Well, the
The way I-
conversation I had, it was if we give out a 3% plus 4%, so that's less than that right there.
Now, he told me that
So he's asking for 8% on his current.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
it was supposed to be the 3% cost of living
50% raise.
plus 5% or 6%.
Exactly.
That's what.
At the end of the day, that's what that is.
Yeah,
If you give him 8%, that's 3%.
I mean, they're asking for what they're asking. for.
Cost of living plus 5.
Okay.
And the discussion I had, technically it was only 7. So,
In there, he says. Receive 8 on his current.
exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's what they're requesting.
Are you okay with that?
I mean, you
Ethan?
can break it down however, but at the bottom line, it's just an 8% raise.
So the other thing that they had requested as far as benefits was holiday stipend.
Yes, all of them get
For
the same
all of them?
holiday, yeah.
I did. Where did I put it? I put that in public safety. Public safety, we are over on our expenditures. I think we had budgeted 180, and I think we're only getting like 140.
Where's that other 40 come from? You know?
Reserves. Because we have our reserves. If I look at that sheet we had, let's see.
Now, that's gonna be built back up at some point, don't it?
So if we took out the one time. Let's see, where's that at?
Where the hell you do your savings?
Where did they come from?
So the one-time cost in this section was only 15,000 because I spread out their one-time request between that and, what was the other? Oh, opioid unrestricted. I use that for their other police equipment.
Okay,
So, I mean, I guess I could take out part of that
cause we do have some
For
opioid.
what?
So I put 15,000 for their one-time equipment requests in public safety. I could make that less and use more opioid unrestricted.
That sounds good.
You wanna do that?
Yeah.
And what was that for? What was that equipment for? What do you remember? Was it their radios in the farm?
It was, yeah, in-car radio installation for
Okay.
2. The body armor, the in-car printer, the gun mounts, registration scanners. Those are the ones I took out of opioid unrestricted, and that was like 10,200.
Okay.
I think we have like 23,000 in there currently, so I could put part of it more out of that.
Now, don't they have the body armor that's like on back order, or did they ever get that?
They did get those, yeah, they did. There was like 3 of them I think they recently got. But the next year, actually, maybe they only need the one because the one is,
Exactly.
Yeah, but they're
That's-
gonna replace it.
Yeah, but you don't know you're gonna replace it
Yeah,
with the
you're not.
person with the same body
Mm.
statute, or, you know,
Different
something like
bodies.
that.
Can we just leave it in there and if they need it, then they have it?
yeah, we can.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, cause I'm sure it's.
He's gonna replace them.
Okay.
yeah.
Some of their operating expenses, I had to increase, their gas, I feel like they lowballed on that, cause it's a lot higher currently, we're already overexpended. The vehicle repairs was not even included in their operating expenses, and that is about, I put 35,000 in for that.
Hopefully it won't be that nice.
It's already pretty high this year, so I assume it probably will be.
Those old cars are old cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like.
The holidays I figured, so the way, Straight explained it is that they would get a stipend at the end of the year. I think we should put a stipulation on the stipend, if they're not here at the end of the year, they don't get their money.
But you must work the
Yeah,
whole
I
calendar
mean, if
year.
somebody leaves and be like, I want my holiday.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Then
You
you
gotta put in
Is
your
that how
whole
we can
year.
find that?
I don't care.
Now, is that? Is
That
that,
way if they go off.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
well,
obligated to spend.
would be the whole year, or,
Just up until they left.
well, no,
No, because
no, they wouldn't get it
they-
then. But what I'm about to ask is, if they have the hours in, say overtime hours, that would push them to like they had hours for the year, would they be eligible then?
So we do longevity for everybody. Longevity you only get if you're here.
Right.
So I feel like it's the same thing
I do too.
because it's a benefit.
Yeah.
It is,
Uh,
that's fine. Is that what you would do with everybody else that's here if they leave before? Or no,
That's
'cause you-
longevity, yeah. we
Well, no,
don't pay
no,
for-
no, the holiday, but
Yeah.
everybody else.
If they
you pay.
weren't here for the holiday,
Yeah, they
they
don't
wouldn't
get
get it.
paid, yeah. We also need to discuss the overtime pay, then I feel like that overtime, if you work the holiday, should go away since everybody's getting paid for the holiday.
Yeah,
Because then that's double pay.
yeah.
Okay, we'll have to change that in the salary ordinance too.
So no overtime for the police department,
No, just on
No,
holidays.
just on holidays, okay?
Yeah.
So they were treating it as an incentive, I think when
Mhm.
the other chief was here, he asked for them to be paid as an incentive.
Mhm.
But if they're getting holiday pay
Right,
at the end of the year for the holidays, you don't give them overages, and that's double.
Double dip.
Yeah. Mhm. And that's a salary ordinance thing.
but now, wait a minute, if anybody else worked overtime on, okay, say if Rocky got called in on a holiday, wouldn't he get paid for that holiday pay?
So the way a civilian pay works is that anything over actual hours worked, you would get paid. But if you're working a holiday and they come in on the holiday, they're already getting paid for 8. So if he came in and worked 2 hours, he gets straight time, 2 hours on top of that.
Okay.
Any overtime is over 40 hours, actual hours worked, doesn't include, so
If they're coming into work, they're automatically getting.
they're automatically getting, right.
And whatever else they work, they get
They
that.
get that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one I'm sorry, don't, still double.
Yeah.
They're just getting it
Yeah,
at the end of the
okay,
year and
okay.
so.
All right, that's good.
That's,
Yeah.
Yes,
when
they
I
work
was
it, they're still getting
UAW,
paid.
that's what we got,
That's
double
what-
time
yeah.
on holidays, so.
but they're getting it now, they're getting it later.
Yeah, that's what they asked for. That's the way they wanted it.
I wouldn't go all of that's just me.
Well, they came in, they said, because that's the way the county does it, and they liked it because they said they like getting that check at the New Year, Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's what we agreed to. I mean, you don't want to change it the other way, it may be different.
Yeah, it didn't make any difference, however they wanted, but they requested it that.
Yeah,
In America.
That's an extra check that on top of. the
Yeah.
regular check.
was there
They get
anything that
taxed
please
different,
put in, I'm sorry, what?
when they get taxed different. It's like a bonus.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna use that.
He's taxed way different than a regular paycheck, like.
Are you saying overtime tax versus straight time tax?
Actually, if we don't use our vacation, we get a vacation. Thing, like we
Oh.
get paid out on our vacation. And it's.
So are you saying your checks is more?
Yeah, you get, oh, yeah.
You tax the bonus, paycheck, you work that amount of money. If you work that amount of hours in that pay, your tax would be one thing, but if you just got an off. schedule,
I
off
was there
cycle
anything
check
they
that
put
much,
in that they
the
didn't
taxes
get,
are more
that
because
they didn't get.
they're a bonus.
Bonus.
More money taken out of that check,
I
so
think so.
they're getting a big lump sum, but they're getting less than what they would have got. if
Again,
Just like
you're gonna
one
have
water.
to
You
figure out
take it all out.
public
You know,
safety
you get as much
because
as
it's,
the other time. Yep.
Yeah.
the only thing with public safety is that we are overspending what we get. So if I take off that 15,000, what's that, 165? And we're getting like 140, so 25,000.
And that's on what?
The only thing, I'm sorry,
What's that on?
public safety lit.
Are we supposed to get more next year than we did this year?
A little bit. Not much.
Not that much.
Not that much. So the only thing I can think is maybe if we're not doing the over, it might help with wages wise that way. Cause I do take some salaries out of public safety just to take the heat off of general, but not much, so it might even itself out. So I don't know if you wanna just.
What can we do to make it even out right now?
I thought it was pretty lean when he gave us.
It really is.
Yeah, there's just no other place to take, like. The opioid restriction fund, like we unrestricted, we can use for the police equipment. I got that idea from Carnersville. I think Rosemary said that that's what they did with theirs. So like I said, I do have I think it's 23,000 in there currently. So if we take the majority of that equipment, it helps. It's just let's see. So salaries and wages, I take out about 26,500. Or I'm sorry, 20,000. The holiday stipend came to like 26,500. And then you get the FICA retirement. Office supplies, we got 4,000, evidence management, 2,000, gasoline and vehicle repairs out of Vegas, which are 35,000 each.
Or vehicle?
The,
For the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, of course, since they drive home back and forth, that's a lot of gas. Ammunition was 3,000, household supplies is 2,000, which is mainly like their utility mats and cleaning supplies. Uniforms and holsters, 7,000, telephone, internet, which I don't really have to take that out of there. I think we include that in our general fund anyway, so I can take that out. The electrical subscription, cleaning contract, training, they had 8,000. They wanted 8,000 out of there, and I think 5,000 out of local law enforcement, but local law enforcement isn't a heavy revenue fund. So I think I only took 3,000 out of that for local law enforcement, and then the 8,000 out of public safety. And then the travel and administrative meeting, 2,000. Uniform stitching, 500. That was pretty much it. So we're maybe, and like I said, if the holiday and the police overtime kind of help each other, maybe that might be better.
why don't we do what we got this year and then take a look at it next year
Yeah,
and see if there's anything we can do.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that all right?
You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Um. Is anything else anybody? I will put in what we changed here tonight and then send it back out, just so you guys can take a look. You can just, I mean, what I would do if I was you two is just compare the Form 1 totals for each fund to the budget total revenues, and then you can kind of see where we're at.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Do you have a ballpark on how much we're gonna be overdrawn,
As far as
general?
general. Well, like right now, it looks like it's about 200,000.
That we are spending that we don't have?
Correct.
How much?
200,000.
Our general,
Cause the revenues on this sheet says total budget year revenues was 2,272,000. And then the total expenses we have currently in here were 2,485,000. But again, those one-time cost, well, I'm taking out the tractor. So, and then 3,000 of the deck repairs, so probably like 25,000 less. So it's 175,000. And then 150 of that is the golf course
Yeah,
one-time
so
repairs.
then we're not bad.
I don't know what
Yeah.
else we would cut.
Yeah, I think we're not bad, and we don't know how much revenue we're gonna get off the golf course.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
I mean, the only thing we can do, well, I always estimate, so part of our, what I'm saying with total revenues is an estimate of those revenues.
We're doing better this year
Yeah,
revenue wise than last year, correct?
I'd have to look at it, I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, that's, we are doing better if you.
You're asking me? I'd
Yeah,
have to
I'm
look.
asking.
I'd have to look. Have to look at the reports, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't have that stuff off the top of my head.
Seemed like, I mean, just
Why not?
from the outside looking in,
No
it
way.
seems like it is
You
doing,
don't know it all, did you? Yeah.
it does look like it's doing a lot better over there.
Anybody?
Anything else from anybody else?
so with the Dakotas, did we just agree with 8% total?
I feel like that's all he's asking for in this letter.
But he won't get it. Does that mean he won't get a cost of living raise any year or just this
No.
year?
No,
It's the
just
initial.
Just your initial, because you created a new position.
Yeah,
If I mean, if that's all we can do, we can't give him a 3%.
If you break it, you can
see,
initially, you can look at it any way you want it. You can look at it as a 3% cost of living and 5% increase. I
Right,
mean,
that's what it would be like, pretty much.
exactly.
If we just gave 3% across the board, he'd be getting 5%, because that'd be 8% total.
Now, the
Exactly.
3% we're gonna give, how are you gonna base that? Off of everybody's different income?
Yeah, right.
their hourly rate.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
okay.
based off of hourly rate.
Okay, because I think one time it wasn't. There was one year that it wasn't.
Oh, God. I
No,
don't
we've
know.
always done hourly rates, so,
County,
oh, okay.
I don't.
Unless you wanna do what the county does, I don't know how that figures out.
no, we talked about it last year and it's so complex.
I'd just give a 3% to whatever they're making that
Yeah,
3%.
3% of that, and that's what it's.
Not 3%, whatever Tom, Dick, and Harry.
So it's,
Exactly.
are you happy with the codes with that? This,
So, yeah, but they asked for, I mean, it's a 5%,
It's
rate,
what
not
he said.
3%, so it's 8% total.
well, that's
I
what
mean,
everybody else
that's,
got.
that's sort of 1% more than the discussion.
And that's fair because that's what Rocky and that's what Josh told us. So I think that's fair, don't you? Okay.
Anything else?
I don't know.
Motion,
I make a motion to end the meeting.
second,
Yeah, I don't think that is.
all in favor?
They're not.
All opposed.
What did you hold us?